Hi and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tanya Evans, and thank you so much for joining me this afternoon for this quick webinar on COVID-19 vaccination and how to use WorkPro to administer the program really simply and easily. There are about 30 people or so on the call at the moment. There's a few, I can see a couple of others joining us. So if you have any questions during the session, rather than stopping, please add those questions to the chat and I will come back to them if the time allows. Thank you so much, our New Zealand friends who have joined us. I know it's already 5 o'clock in New Zealand, so I really appreciate your attendance this afternoon. Hopefully everyone can hear me, and I'm sure if you can't, someone has already popped that into the chat. So without further ado, I'm going to get started. So this afternoon's session, I'm just going to run through what we're about to cover off. So just an overview of WorkPro's COVID vaccination management program, a live demonstration to quickly show you how it works, both from an administrator's point of view and also from a candidate's point of view, a little overview about the pricing for those that are unsure where they might fit in the scheme of things, some details around privacy as a really important element of vaccination administration, and then, as I mentioned, if we have time for some questions and answers. So an overview of WorkPro's vaccination administration. First of all, it's part of WorkPro's documents module. So for those that are really familiar with WorkPro, you'll know that we offer a license and ticket, and we also offer a documents management subscription. So the vaccination part of this is in the documents module. The ability to send a candidate request to collect their vaccination information. So you can send a candidate request either as a single request, or you can send a bulk request to your entire workforce. It caters for the 4 current vaccination statuses, so we're keeping a really close eye on developments and making sure that as things change, that we're proactively making sure that we're making any adjustments that are necessary to the WorkPro program. It allows for the upload of not just the dose information and their dose dates or further appointments, but it also allows for the upload of the digital certificate or in fact an exemption. With an exemption, they're also able to add a comment or a note that you will see in the back end of the platform and also in the reporting. It welcomes you, so once the candidate has uploaded their digital certificate and their dose information, you're receiving automated status alerts, you're logging into the platform, you're able to view that information, including the digital certificate. You're able to produce the time and date stamped certificate, and you're also then able to make a decision at the point where you produce that verification certificate, whether you would like to either retain the certificate because you're required to by law, as an example, or you're able to withdraw. We call it is destroy. It's withdrawing viewing rights of that certificate. And I'll go into that in a moment in our live demonstration, because it's important for you to understand the ability to withdraw viewing rights of the certificate and also retain the viewing rights of that certificate either then or into the future. As far as booster goes, it automates dose reminders. So there's 2 dose reminders. One is if someone is partially vaccinated and they've included a date for the next appointment, WorkPro automates the reminder, so 24 hours, 48 hours, and 72 hours after that person was supposed to have that appointment and their next dose. Our platform is sending those reminders to log into the platform and update their information and update their digital certificate. Where the booster is concerned, so if someone is fully vaccinated and it is 3 months after their last dose, WorkPro is automatically reminding them, a gentle reminder because it's not mandated, as we know, in certain circumstances, gently reminding them that by now they should have had their booster, and inviting them back into the platform to update their information to the booster 1, uploading a new copy of their digital certificate, and then the automation flows into you being reminded, you receiving an email, and you're logging into the platform and producing that date and timestamp certificate again. In addition to the booster 1, and the automation of that rather than you having to cater for that. We also provide you with a report each week straight into your inbox of those candidates who have adjusted their vaccination information. They may have had their booster as an example. So we'll send you a single report that shows the candidate's name, their dose date, and their status, so e.g. booster 1. So that's a little overview of WorkPro's vaccination system. But now, all importantly, is the live demo. So I'm just going to spend a couple of minutes showing you the administrator side. Then I'm going to show you the candidate experience. I'm going to show you a candidate who is yet to add vaccination information. And I'm also going to show you a candidate who has previously uploaded vaccination information and how they update their information to their next status. So just let me jump into that. All right, so for those of you that are using WorkPro, which I think is most on this webinar today, you'll be familiar with our dashboard. So in order to send a new request to a candidate, just following the same procedure as you're currently, selecting documents, choosing COVID-19 vaccination, obviously entering the candidate's details here, including email, phone number, etc., and then sending the request. So for those that are taking advantage of a bulk request, so I've just shown you how to send a single request. For those that want to take advantage of sending their entire workforce a vaccination request, you'd be using the send a bulk request. You're either using a CSV file or you're entering a handful of candidates using this opportunity, and then you're sending the request. So as you've come to expect, the candidate is receiving a text message and or email inviting them to log into the platform and provide their vaccination information. So for a candidate who has never provided vaccination in the past, starting a new session and they're entering their token. Selecting documents, and you can see here COVID-19 vaccination, uploading new, and they have the opportunity to select their status, not vaccinated. As I mentioned, if they're choosing not vaccinated, they have the opportunity to enter a reason for that, so an exemption, and they have the opportunity to upload their exemption form. Partially vaccinated, date of their last dose, and any appointment for a future dose, agreeing to the terms and conditions and saving that information. Fully vaccinated, entering the date of their last date of their last dose, agreeing to the terms and conditions, and uploading a copy of their digital certificate with instructions of how to do that for Australia and for New Zealand here, or have received their booster 1. So that allows them to drop that down, choosing their vaccination status, entering the dosage information, and a copy of their digital certificate. From the administrator's window, candidates uploaded their vaccination information, and you can see here, in this case, Ron, you can see here that he's fully vaccinated, including his booster 1 and the issue date, so that's available on the dashboard. Digging a little deeper, selecting Ron, choosing documents. You can see here the thumbnail representing the fact that he's uploaded his digital certificate. You can see the date of his last dose is there. You can also verify the results. So at the start of this webinar, I mentioned the ability to produce a date and time stamped certificate for audit purposes. So you can click verify the results here. It's produced a date and time stamp certificate, and if I was to close that, you can now see that there's an audit trail. So in Ron's case, I've already produced one verification certificate back in late November. Ron's now had his booster. I'm now able to produce this time and date stamp certificates that I just have. So this is the audit trail of the 2 certificates that sit here. So that information will be sitting in WorkPro for you. Oops. There is no bulk verification opportunity for vaccination. So for those that are used to using the bulk e-learning verification or a bulk Vivo verification. There is no opportunity to do that because we expect that you're going to want to look at the digital certificate and determine the authenticity of that certificate. So in order to make that a simple process for you to gather up all of those that have been vaccinated and you're wanting to verify, you'd be looking at a status of not yet verified, choosing COVID-19 vaccination, applying that, and following the same process. So you can see all of these here have had their vaccinations. They're at various stages, booster 1, fully vaccinated, not vaccinated, etc. Now you have the opportunity to just see those that you're wanting to look at, those vaccinations. Documents, as I mentioned before, you're verifying the results. You also have the opportunity, as mentioned earlier in the webinar, once you've produced the date and timestamp certificate, that you want to either retain the digital certificate in the platform because you're mandated, as an example, or you can withdraw viewing rights of that certificate as soon as that date and timestamp certificate has been produced. So choosing withdrawing those viewing rights, selecting continue. There is the date and timestamp certificate, but in this case, you can now see that that certificate has been withdrawn. If into the future, so for example, this consultant or this candidate was no longer working for you, and then they applied for another role or you had another opportunity for them, and the next role that you had available for them meant that you needed to retain a copy of that digital certificate, rather than having to ask the candidate for that information again, you can simply restore the viewing rights and restore. Okay, that will store an audit trail of who withdrew the viewing rights, but also who restored the viewing rights. So each time you do something, every time you take action on this COVID certificate, it will show the person, the date, and the time for audit purposes. So that shows the filtering. I've shown you how to view the certificate. I've shown you how to capture, or the candidate captures their information and enters their information. I've shown you the filtering function, how to produce the date and timestamp certificate, how to withdraw viewing rights, and also how to retain the viewing rights or restore those viewing rights. So hopefully that's given you a good overview. I haven't gone into great granular detail about it. I'm sure there might be some questions that you have if this is something that's interesting for your organisation. Coming back to our presentation this afternoon, privacy and protection. So what WorkPro is doing is we've updated our privacy policy in line with health regulations and legal guidelines. That is, every candidate that logs into WorkPro and signs up for a WorkPro account is able to view our privacy policy and accept those terms. Candidate terms of access, we've also updated those terms of access, and particularly as it relates to the candidate's opportunity to request that their information be destroyed or removed from the WorkPro platform. Informed consent. Every time that the candidate comes through and they're asked for vaccination information, there's a presentation of how we collect that information, how that information is stored, and their rights to have that information destroyed at any time. So each time a candidate is completing an action in WorkPro, we're asking for their informed consent. And some little things for you to consider. Is your company's privacy policy up to date? Do you have the right to request and collect this information? Have you explained to the candidate the reason for collecting the information and the digital certificate? And also explained to them if you need to retain the digital certificate. And also for the future, so if you needed to retain the information or that digital certificate in the first instance, is that still the case for the future? Pricing. So for existing customers who are subscribing to WorkPro's license and ticket and in fact document management function, this new vaccination function and any future functionality that we add is included in your subscription. So for those of you on the call that are already subscribing to that, all you need to do is give us a call, have a chat through the vaccination if you have any questions about it, and the service is enabled and you can start immediately. For those that are not yet using the license ticket and document management function, there's a little price guide for you on the screen. That is an annual subscription, and you have 12 months to use your allocated commitment. If you subscribe to the vaccination service, I just wanted to let you know that you also can take advantage of all of the functionality that the license and ticket solution or module with inside WorkPro has to offer, including working with children checks, collecting driver's licenses or forklift licenses, etc. So any accreditation or license or ticket that you need to collect as part of your candidate engagement, you can use that function inside WorkPro. So what's next for our vaccination administration program? First of all, naturally, we're going to be staying up to date along with health and legal guidelines. We currently understand that there is potentially some upcoming changes, changing from booster 1 and fully vaccinated to up to date. And we know that to be considered up to date with COVID-19, you must have had all of the doses recommended for your age and health needs. And that's kind of all of the guidance that we've been provided at the moment. According to the Australian Technical Advisory Group on immunisation, which we're in touch with, that at the moment up to date means all individuals aged 16 or over are recommended to receive the booster dose to maintain an up-to-date status. So at this stage, we're concentrating on the booster 1, and that for us is a definition of up-to-date, and we won't be changing the terminology at this stage. The booster dose is now recommended from 3 months after the last primary dose, and this is called the due date. So on that basis, and as I mentioned very early in the webinar, that after 3 months, so the automatic schedule of reminders for a booster will come 3 months and 1 week after the person's last dose. We will send a second reminder 1 week after that, and we will send a third and final reminder at 4 months. So just to recap, for those that are fully vaccinated, we will be sending those gentle reminders to those candidates, inviting them into the platform in line with 3 months and 1 week, 3 months and 2 weeks, and at 4 months. And each week you will receive an updated report for candidates who are fully vaccinated, who are working for you, who have updated their information. That includes a booster 1. A little overview of the companies that are using WorkPro's vaccination administration program. I'm very happy to say that it must be coming up towards around 68,000 candidates have uploaded their vaccination information into WorkPro. You can see some of the brands that are using WorkPro's product to do that and make it really easy for them. And I was chuffed to see Tariq Nasri, who's a well-regarded work health and safety specialist for the Adecco Group, noting that the use of WorkPro has been a game changer for them operationally, with them having to worry about doing some manual investigation and contacting candidates, letting the WorkPros aid the program and be the automation takeover and make sure that program is working as designed. So now I come to questions and answers. So oh wow, it's only 3:20. I hope that you've enjoyed the webinar. I'm more than happy to spend some time taking some questions if you have some. I'm just going to have a quick look here and see if there's any questions that anyone has answered. One question that has been asked is if you were to adopt the vaccination program today, how long does it take to get up and running? The good news is that the service is available immediately. So there's no configuration required. If you're using WorkPro already, you've got your site set up, your account set up, and your usernames and your administrators and hierarchies of control set. Basically, we want to understand what kind of candidate numbers you're putting through. We just enable the service and you're free to start sending your requests immediately. Thank you for that question. If nobody else has any questions, I think that I'll wrap up the session. This session has been recorded. You'll receive a copy of the recording straight to your inbox, and of course you're free to share that and forward that to any of your colleagues. So thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you found it valuable, and I will speak with you shortly.